Kingdom Death Monster should absolutely be working on an acrylic version of their board game. A portable, condensed, and non-miniaturized version of my favorite game of all time. This has been a debate that has been going on for a long time online. And we now have 10 reasons why we think and why we here at Quackalope are arguing for an acrylic small box version of Kingdom Death after Wave 4 is completed. I know, don't distract them until they get all the backers, myself included, everything we're waiting for. But immediately after that, I think this has to be next on the list.
Number 1 is going to be accessibility. Accessibility of this game in terms of building these miniatures, painting them, making sure they look appropriate. If you see, this one is partially done. It was put together, it was built, it was glued, but then you have to fill in some of the cracks and crevices with this green putty. That does not make an attractive looking miniature on your board. This is much more attractive. Additionally, it breaks apart and comes and folds like this. The accessibility of carrying this game on the go would be greatly increased if you didn't have to worry about your miniatures breaking or paint getting damaged.
Yeah, it's just one of the biggest parts that keeps people from buying into Kingdom Death. The fact that you have to build from sprues the models. Then you have to prime and paint the models. And then after you've built, primed, and painted everything, you're a couple dozen, if not a couple hundred hours into working on the game. I still haven't built everything that even comes in the core box.
Yeah.
And then following up on that, you got to have a place to store them. The moment this guy got built, he lived outside the box, and he has ever since, even though he's ugly and unfinished. So, point number 1, accessibility by far. Point number 2, the building and the painting is kind of ridiculous, and I think a giant barrier towards a wider audience getting into the game. If you make your game hobby restrictive, it introduces this barrier that a lot of people are never going to be willing to get past.
This is a monster in the Gambler's Chest expansion. This entire box, this entire 2-piece thing is a monster that you have to cut out very carefully and avoid the sharp edges and smooth it down and then find glue that'll hold it together and make sure it stays together.
And if you like that, don't worry. That part of the game is going to stick around, but for everyone that doesn't want to do that, it would make the game, well, playable, because it's not straight out of the box. Moving on down to point number 3.
Number 3 is going to be portability, similar in accessibility. If you want to take your game on the go, if you're traveling to a convention with a group of friends, your game group, you're meeting up, and you want to play through episode after episode of Kingdom Death Monster, having to travel with these miniatures makes it a lot more precarious. You can't fly with someone like this. Where are you going to put him?
You legitimately can't really travel with this game. Game night either has to be at your house, or everyone needs to own a copy of base game Kingdom Death. What if you've got your own campaign with your own friends and you're going on vacation? How do you get a game there?
Or it's a family game. I mean, if you're playing with husband and wife and you're traveling to visit grandma and grandpa and you want to bring your favorite game to show them.
No, we don't show grandma and grandpa this. I know people who've even gone as far as only bringing the bases,
yeah,
which completely reduces the pleasure that you get out of playing a game with cool creatures and cool hunts. But in order to make it portable, transportable, and playable, they'll only bring the stands and maybe the survivor miniatures they need. So having this be condensable and flat would up the portability and the availability of the game in a lot of different settings. I know I've put this game in my car wrapped in blankets with miniatures sitting in the front seat with me before.
And I've seen the damaged miniatures that have come from that car ride.
You shouldn't have to do that to play your favorite game of all time. Moving on to point number 4. Let's talk about what some of the benefits of acrylic standees are. The first and most obvious one is, well, artwork. But think about this. I want crazy, awesome, beautiful, Kingdom Death inspired versions of the people I'm fighting with and the creatures I'm fighting against displayed in front of me. If I'm fighting a level 1, 2, or 3 Phoenix, well, in an acrylic version of Kingdom Death, I could have a level 1, 2, and 3 piece of artwork.
Baby Phoenix and a mid-sized Phoenix and an adult Phoenix. Oh my goodness, each with their vicious talents.
Alternative artwork and alternative artwork packages would be something that I think Kingdom Death would be able to sell, and a lot of people would be willing to buy. I know we don't need to spend more money on this game, but let's be honest, we all are going to anyway. If they released a pack that was just core game alt arts, I would be all for that and probably pay way more money than I should. I love the beauty of this game. I love the theme, and I love how dynamic it is. And so alternative acrylic artworks is one of those areas that I would love to bring to the table.
Additionally, to be gender inclusive, you can have a group of 4 survivors who are all female. You can have a group of survivors who are all male. You don't have to be stuck with 2 males and 2 females.
Yeah, so you've got a whole mix. Now, here's an idea that Shira came up with that some of you might hate, but remember, we're not trying to convince you. You already agree. We're trying to convince the team at Kingdom Death. I will be sending this video to Adam Poots. I hope he doesn't stop talking to me. Shira, what is the brilliant marketing strategy you came up with that will encourage them to 100% do this?
So number 5 is going to be include a little resin, include a little acrylic inside every resin package. We don't buy all of the resin. I hate the idea. We don't buy all of the resin miniatures because we're not going to be building the resin miniatures to display in our house and to paint. We have a hard enough time painting the base miniatures.
And they're fragile. You can't really play with them.
And the resins are fragile. They're really only for the artists and the hobbyists in this category, in this genre. Or
the obsessive collectors that leave them in brown boxes for way too long.
Right. So instead of having 2 Calyx shelf worth of brown boxes that have never been opened, if they include even just one resin version of that, then anyone who's looking to collect all the gameplay components, like me, is going to be forced to have to buy that box just to get this little resin piece. It doesn't take up much room. It'll fit acrylic piece. The acrylic doesn't take up much room. It will literally fit in that box with the resin sprue that you have to build anyways. Yeah. And it would make me miserable because I would have to go find all of them.
They're already doing it with beta cards and promo gear and other strain cards and things that get mixed in. Why not take the artwork that they've already designed for every single one of these little, resin boxes and have it be something you could incorporate into your gameplay the moment you bring it home?
A lot of people try to specifically paint their miniature according to that artwork.
I buy some of those resin models
because they're pretty.
Because the artwork's awesome. Yeah. Well, what if I had the artwork in my game the moment I got it? I hate the idea. It's brilliant for Kingdom Death. Moving on down to point number 6. We don't do modeled miniatures anyway, kind of reiterating on the idea that I said of alternative artworks for these different miniatures or these different acrylic standees. Here's the thing. Some people will argue that the point of Kingdom Death is to allow you to build and attach all the weapons and all the gear and all the various different pieces and items and crazy crafting you can do with the miniatures in the box. And yeah, when they first came out with it, that was a brilliant idea. It was an amazing sales tactic. It convinced me to buy magnets and try to make models that allowed me to attach arms and weapons and different headgear. But the reality of it is few and far between that even build those models, let alone customize them. Yeah, we might build one for a hero or have the idea of doing that, but we're never customizing the models during the course of our actual gameplay.
Or a queen. Additionally, there are, in the Ganon War Chess expansion, they come with a whole slew of Ark survivors that already have their own story behind them and are set to be built according to that model in particular.
They're not doing the customizable models anymore.
They provided these stories.
It's all narrative sculpts.
Yeah. So if they're already providing that, then they can provide the artwork for it to be created into a little acrylic version.
Yeah. So when they come back, when Team Death comes back and they say, listen, it's not what we have in mind. We want people to have cool miniatures on the table where they can customize everything. They don't. They've already changed tactics. It didn't work. Narrative sculpts work better. And narrative sculpts with artwork might be even more compelling.
Number 7, going back to portability, is also going to be storage. The storage location, like Jesse said, as soon as the Phoenix gets built, it does not fit back into that box without being dinged or damaged.
But it's not really a problem, says people who love Kingdom Death, because I can store the Phoenix on top of my Calyx shelf, and I've got room for it.
Yeah, but if you have other games in your house...
No, not other games, Shira.
If you have
What's the second term on here? Expansions.
You have every single expansion. The Dragon Knight. Are you fitting your Dragon Knight inside the box or on your shelf alongside your
Dragon King?
The Dragon King.
Okay.
Isn't there? There's also a Dragon Knight.
Is there?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a knight.
Maybe. I don't think so.
All the additional expansions, the Gorm. I haven't fought any of the expansions, honestly.
I haven't built a lot of them. You know why? Because I don't have room for them anywhere.
They come in these massive boxes, and you are going to have miniature after miniature after miniature, and if this is your lifestyle game, then that's one thing.
I've been intending to buy a shelf just for Kingdom Death miniatures for the entirety of this hobby. I've had them living and floating and maneuvering around, and yeah, if you've got the expansions... you really don't have room to keep Kingdom Death. And I know a lot of people that have sold the game simply because they ran out of space.
But acrylics, they break down. They literally, you can slide them in sheets in a binder. You can slide them in sleeves and take a binder with you, and then when you get there, set them up, and you're ready to go.
It means you'll never have to get rid of your copy of Kingdom Death, which means for the Kingdom Death team, you're always going to be a loyal, dedicated customer. They're not going to lose you, like I've seen them lose a lot of people in my circle over the last few years. Moving on down to point number 8. Point number 8. They already have a digital edition of this game, so if the argument comes back that they don't want to make the game dilute the game or make the game different from what they originally envisioned, well, they already did that, and they did it in an area they had publicly said before they weren't going to do. The Kingdom Death Simulator, if you haven't experienced it, is really good. It's mind-blowing, and I'm excited to see how it continues developing. But it makes a portable version of Kingdom Death. It makes a flat version of Kingdom Death. It makes an experiential version of Kingdom Death that you can take with you on the road with one glaring problem. I don't want to play a computer game. I want to sit around the table with my friends and play the game like you're supposed to play Kingdom Death. And when they first released that digital version, it was kind of bad because he had you shuffling the cards by hand and picking everyone out and making it as tactile as possible in a 3D digital world. That's not the answer. The answer is a more accessible physical copy of the game.
Number 9 is going to be artwork.
Beautiful
artwork is gorgeous. It is stunning. If you look through the book, they are gruesome and gory and so detailed.
Is this what you have in mind when you think of a white lion? Tell me the truth.
No, you're Giga Lion. This is better.
Is that what you have in mind when you think of a Giga Lion?
No. The artwork is... It's one of a kind, and it's one of the things that actually got me into this game, reading that intro story and seeing that white lion come upon the survivors with, like, blood dripping from its maw. It's terrifying. Or the Crimson Croc with all its little fingers spindling behind you. They can make a 3x3 base that would encompass the same space on the board, but have the entire visage of the artwork be there.
And because we're arguing for acrylic, and we're not arguing for cardboard, because cardboard isn't as good. It falls apart and gets worn out and doesn't look as pretty. But acrylic is hard. It's durable and it's see-through, meaning the environment on the game will be reinforced by the artwork, not distracted by it or taken away due to other areas. Like, I hate how Gloomhaven looks on the table, even though it's a great game, because the standees don't cut around the image very nicely, and they're blurry on the edges, and I see landscape, but it doesn't match the terrain I'm in, or a creature's out in a big, beautiful forest, but we're fighting down in a crypt.
Yeah.
That would be solved by having transparency through acrylic tiles. Moving on down.
Last but not least.
My biggest single argument around this, and I know all of you are going to moan and groan when I tell you this, but again, the whole point of this video is to convince Kingdom Death to really honestly consider it and to show support from the community that this idea and the application of this would be received. I would buy a brand new copy of Kingdom Death just to have acrylic, and I think most of the people out there in the world would, not including all the people that would be introduced to this game for the first time because it was now accessible and playable. Hear me out. This would be the best option I can see going forward for a game that's almost outlived its ability to find new customers. Yeah. I can't imagine the back end of what Kingdom Death is struggling with right now after releasing a gambler's chest. The single most ambitious, biggest expansion I've ever seen for a board game that costs an astronomical amount, not including all the other content you have to get if you want to jump into this game right now. And I think they know it. This last Black Friday, they were selling core game for like $225 for 10 minutes. They were selling a full bundle for just under $1,000. You're saving about 50% or 60% off of the market normal price. You could legitimately have purchased that, and the very next week probably sold it for around what you paid, if not drastically more. But the market on Gambler's Chest has kind of died on eBay. There's no third-party reselling 4 times the price when it first came in. That means the market's saturated. Well, that's a problem, because the barrier to entry now is bigger than it's ever been. And so for Kingdom Death as a company to continue making beautiful things, to continue being profitable and sustainable as a company that's grown from one crazy creator, his amazing supportive wife, and friends that told him he was insane, to now a company that dominates Gen Con every time they exhibit, that had and will reclaim, I believe it, the most successful Kickstarter that the board game industry and the platform for a time had ever seen, this would be the right decision. The amount of resales, the amount of duplicate charges, the amount of people that would come into this game because the barriers were removed and the accessibility and storability and portability and beauty would be all enhanced. I'm not telling them to get rid of the miniatures. I want miniatures. Yeah. I want the big box version. I want it at home, though. And then I want to be able to take it on the road and play it with other people and have a version of this game that makes it so I can incorporate both aspects that I love.
We want to bring more people to the hobby. We want to show more people why this has risen to our #1 game that we play with each other.
So the 10th point is it'd be the right decision for them. And it would be insanely profitable. Only after Wave 4. Not a second before Wave 4 has arrived. They do not need to be distracted with other things going on. But it really should happen. The final thing that we didn't quite agree on, so we left it here for the end, and I know some of you will comment on it down below, and we'll get through it very quickly, is the price point. I think if you reduce the shipping size, you condensed the box, you made it accessible, and you stacked all the acrylic on top of those cards and stuff, you could probably get that price lower than what you have the core box at now.
And I've disagreed because I have heard people in the industry talking about how expensive acrylic can be. And additionally, because they have not put together their miniatures, they are just selling plastic. I mean, it came in a box of plastic. That is what you got, and you have to assemble them yourself. I think they cut down on price with the sprues. I think that it would be equivalent in price of manufacturing, which will have to be distributed to the consumer because they can't just swallow all of that manufacturing price.
And the one big risk is that the audience will value miniatures over acrylic standees, and they'll say, well, they're being greedy if they're charging close to the same price for both copies. I think they could get that price lower. I don't know the logistics, but I really do think it's possible. Whether they invest in their own acrylic cutting machines and craft them themselves, or they order enough stock that they bring that price as low as possible. That's what you do with plastics, but I don't think it works quite the same when it comes to screen printing on beautiful tiles. However, I do think, I still stand by this, that even if the price was comparable or slightly higher in some regards, like the resin miniatures, would have to be a little bit more expensive because you're including something extra in them. Mm-hmm. I think the community, for the sake of the value we're getting back in all the things we just listed, would be okay paying that couple of dollars difference to have something extra and something unique and something special. Yeah. Okay? Let us know. Do you enjoy? Not do you enjoy? Let us know. Do you agree?
Or disagree?
Do you disagree? And
why?
Why? We'll see you later.